Hi, this is Les and Amy from the RevGenetics Podcast. You can listen to the podcast on YouTube and now on Spotify, where we do a deep dive on supplements and longevity studies.
And today we're doing a deep dive on a concept that I think is so important, synergy. We're looking at a recent review that digs into how two things we all know are good for us.
Mediterranean diet and exercise.
Exactly, but it argues they're not just good. They're profoundly more powerful when you do them together.
I love that because you so often hear people talk about diet or exercise, like they're separate buttons you can push.
Right.
But the source material says that when you combine them, the outcomes for your heart, your metabolism, your brain, it's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It's more like 1 + 1 = 3.
It really is. And, they point to real-world examples to back this up. Think about the blue zones. Places like Icaria in Greece or Sardinia.
Places with all the centenarians.
The very same. And the key thing is, these people aren't just following a diet. Their entire lifestyle integrates that way of eating with really active, laborious, everyday tasks. It's all one seamless thing.
That makes a lot of sense, but it does raise a question for, those of us who aren't shepherds. Does walking for 30 minutes on a treadmill give you that same deep cellular benefit?
That's the critical question. And the paper we're looking at, it's titled Physical Activity Role in Health Advancement with Mediterranean Diet. It argues that, yes, the core mechanism is basically the same.
Interesting.
So today, our mission is to get inside the cell and see why. We're going to look at how this diet and this activity actually talk to each other to slow down aging.
Okay, let's do it. Let's pull back the curtain and look at the three main players here: AMPK, SRT1, and telomeres.
Let's start with telomeres. To keep it super simple, just think of them as the little plastic tips on the ends of your shoelaces. The shoelace itself is your DNA, right? It holds all the instructions for your body. And every single time a cell divides, those little plastic tips, they get a tiny bit shorter.
And when they get too short, that's when the cell gets old and starts to cause problems.
You got it. And that's where the Mediterranean diet comes in. The special compounds in it, things like polyphenols from olive oil or the omega-3s you get from fish, they're like the raw material to help keep those tips strong.
So the food provides the parts for repair.
Precisely. And then physical activity acts like a signal. It tells the cell, hey, use those parts more efficiently, go repair those tips. They work together to slow that aging process way down.
Okay, I get that. So let's move on to AMPK. This one I think is just so interesting.
It's a big one.
The way I think about it is AMPK is like the cell's main energy manager. Or maybe like the low fuel light in your car.
That's a perfect analogy.
When you exercise, or even when you eat certain foods in the Mediterranean diet, it flips on this low fuel light. It activates AMPK.
And when that energy manager is switched on, it basically tells the cell to stop storing fat and start cleaning house. It burns energy more efficiently, and it clears out all the junk, the damaged cellular waste.
So the synergy here is that the diet gives you this clean, non-inflammatory fuel, and then the exercise is the signal that tells that manager to keep the anti-aging cleanup switch turned on.
Constantly. It's a beautiful system.
Okay, so that brings us to our third player, SIT1.
Right, SRT1. So if AMPK is the energy manager, you can think of SRT1 as the foreman of the cell's internal repair crew.
The foreman. I like that.
It's a major longevity pathway, and its whole job is to speed up DNA repair and protect the cell from stress. And it turns out things in the Mediterranean diet, like resveratrol from grapes, are famous for activating this foreman.
So the diet is what gives the foreman his work orders. Where does the exercise come in?
This is where it gets really cool. Exercise doesn't just add a little bit, it turbocharges the whole operation. See, exercise helps your cells build more mitochondria.
More energy factories.
Exactly. So the foreman, or IT1, needs power to do all that repair work. By building more factories, physical activity makes sure that foreman has all the resources he could possibly need to do a perfect job.
It's pretty incredible to think that, taking the stairs or adding some olive oil to a salad is sending these tiny commands inside my body.
Activating managers and foremen, that's the whole idea. And when all three of these things, the telomere protection, the AMPK energy management, and the RAT1 repair crew are all working together, the health results are, well, they're just staggering.
So let's talk about those numbers. What does this perfect molecular storm actually mean for, living a longer, healthier life? The source gives us some pretty huge figures.
They're massive.
For people who really combine this lifestyle, the research found a 40% drop in all-cause mortality.
Which means your risk of dying from any cause over a 12-year period.
And that's in a huge study, right? Over 70,000 people.
Yeah, this isn't some small trial. This is sustained massive protection over decades. And it's not just about living longer, it's about protecting yourself across the board.
You really see that with metabolic health. The review pointed out that combining the diet and the exercise made people 52% less likely to get type 2 diabetes.
52%, that's that AMPK manager just doing its job perfectly, handling blood sugar and fat.
And it protects your brain, too. This one really stood out to me. The risk for cognitive decline and Alzheimer's, it was reduced by 53 to 65%.
That's the SRT1 formin keeping those crucial neural pathways repaired and healthy. I mean, it's hard to find any single pill or intervention that gives you that kind of protection for your heart, your metabolism, and your brain all at once.
The integrated approach is just better. Today's dive is brought to you by RevGenetics.
Fueling those healthy cellular pathways with the right support helped you maximize the benefits of great diet and movement habits, making sure your internal managers and foremen have everything they need.
So building on what's happening inside the cell, let's just quickly summarize the bigger physical benefits. For heart health alone, combining the diet and exercise dropped the risk of major cardiovascular events by up to, 30 to 47%?
Yeah, depending on the study. And you can trace it right back. The healthy fats in olive oil, for instance, don't just lower bad cholesterol, they actually improve how your artery walls function.
So they can relax and widen more easily, better blood pressure.
Exactly, less strain on the whole system.
Yeah.
And then there's the anti-inflammatory effect, which we can't forget.
Which is at the root of almost every modern disease, really.
It is. The diet itself is packed with antioxidants, and it's proven to lower inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein. Then you add exercise, which is also a powerful anti-inflammatory. Well, you're building an incredible defense system.
So it's a clear chain of events. We start inside the cell with the telomeres and AMPK and SRT1.
And we end up with massive reductions in mortality, diabetes, cognitive decline, heart problems. It all connects.
So if you're taking a step back, looking at the big picture, the conclusion seems pretty clear.
It's overwhelming. I mean, medical professionals should be advocating for this integrated approach. The Mediterranean diet plus physical activity. That should be the first line of defense against chronic disease, focusing on just one or the other. You're really leaving half the benefit on the table.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast on how the Mediterranean diet, exercise, and cellular health markers like AMPK, SRT1, and telomeres contribute to longevity.
Thank you for listening to the RevGenetics Podcast.
RevGenetics.com for the best longevity supplements on Earth.